All right, welcome back, everybody. We are at a turning point now in this course. We have learned how to build a static server. It's feeding up fake data, but it's doing all the things that a server needs to do for a front end to interact with it. And so we are going to now spend the next few lessons building a front end that interacts with that movie server we just made. Just to reiterate, how are these requests happening? Really visualize the request response cycle and seeing it happen on both ends. But first and foremost, we need to set up our folder structure to account for a front end and make sure that when it's requesting, it can make it to our back end. To make sure that when we make a request, it hits our server and we don't run into any CORS issues or any 404 issues. All right, so first, folder structure. Right now we have our server, we have our routes, we have our node modules for the backend, package.json. All of this is all backend files. So we need to make a folder now that represents our front end. And the convention we'll be using for that is a folder named client. Now, for the sake of simplicity here, I'm going to be using create React app in client. So I'm going to cd into client. And as long as you have a more recent version of npm, you can run the command npx create react app space period. And that should install a create React app in client. So I'll go ahead and do that here and then cut this out so you don't get to watch it install for a moment. All right, so that just finished installing. As you can see, I got the boilerplate from the npx create react app that I ran. So I'll come into source, and I'm just going to clear all this out because I'd like to start fresh with my own code. Just a quick reiteration on all of that here. I'll make my index.js. Okay, so a little boilerplate set up. I'm ready to start developing my React app. But what I now need to take account of is that I am interacting with my own server. So how does that work? How does React know that I'm making a request to my server as opposed to a third-party server? And can I do both? Can I request sometimes to mine and sometimes to third-party APIs that I find on the web? And the answer is yes. Create React App has a very elegant solution for this. So all we need to do is, remember now, I'm in my client folder. So in my client folder, I'm going to go to the package.json. This is the create React app package.json. And I need to make an entry here. So I'm just going to go after this last object bracket for the browser list. And I'm going to make something called a proxy. What the proxy needs to be is my localhost URL, where this server is being hosted. So I'll say http://localhost:9000. Now, what's nice about this is it does a couple things. One, now whenever I make a request, let's say I'm using Axios, I'll just do notes here, axios.get, and I wanted to make a get request to my movies endpoint to get that array of movies, all I should say is /movies. I don't need to say localhost. The proxy is taking care of that for me. And it's bypassing CORS. So I don't need to enable cross-origin resource sharing when I'm using a proxy. There's no need to. And I should probably, again, be developing and deploying my server and my front end from the same origin, so CORS is never an issue. But this will make sure that my front end can request to my back end directly without enabling CORS. And I don't need to state the whole URL. All I have to say is /movies, and it knows, okay, let's proxy this to his own server and get the movies. Now, if I'm wanting to request to a third-party API, then I would just give it the whole URL. I'd say, HTTP, Rick and Morty API, for example. And this will know, because it's starting with HTTP, not with just / that this is external, and it will still let me do that request as normal. But all of my requests are simply just / the endpoints that I'm hitting on my own server. So quick recap, folder structure, I created a client folder so that I could install create React app using npx so I get the most recent version. I cleared out the sources and I just have my little boilerplate here. And then to make sure that my front end knows how to talk to my back end, I went to the package.json of my create React app folder and added this proxy entry and gave it the URL to where my server is being hosted. All right, last piece of this before we move on. Now we are going to be having two servers run simultaneously. For example, I have my client. You say npm start and it starts your front end. But I also need my server running so it can receive requests. It's listening for those requests. So while I have one window open for the client, I'm going to plus over here open up a second window and make sure I'm in my server or my backend folder. So I can say Notamon server.js here, get that running, and then switch over to my front end console and npm start here. With both of them running, I can now develop in my app using my own backend, and everything will be running just fine. All right, so in the next couple of episodes, we're going to go through all of the request types, get, post, put, delete, in React. I will have a little pre-made code that we'll be jumping into, so you don't just have to watch me type the whole time, but just to see and really visualize this request response cycle, looking at our consoles, solving bugs as they come up. So get a client folder set up, and we'll get going on this in the next couple episodes. See you there.